going on, everyone? Welcome to another Integra update. But this is the best update so far because it's finally running. Got a lot of this sucker reshaped in the front via my hands, so it doesn't look terrible from over here or over here or over here or even over here. It really needs to be washed. But anyways, other than it needing to be washed, it's doing pretty good. So update since last video, I obviously finished, put the motor back in, got all that stuff dialed in. It is drivable, it's running. I took it to Autocross and ran a couple laps in it. You might be thinking, Zach, you took it all the way to Autocross and only ran a couple laps? Yes. Me and Jet did Autocross last weekend. We both ran dual driver in his Miata the entire time, which was super fun. Thank you, Jet. That was heck of fun. And it was nice because I didn't have to drive the crap out of a car I don't fully trust yet. These Hondas are pretty much bulletproof, but this one has one weird issue that I want to figure out before I drive it really hard. But dual driving the Miata has always been something I wanted to try. Jet's always wanted to try it. We did it. It was super fun. And he was like, what the heck? Why didn't we do this sooner? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe you had to trust me first. But seriously, it was super fun because we got to actually compete on an even playing field. Same track, same car, only changes the driver. So that was super cool. But this bad boy, I towed it out there anyways because I kind of wanted to do like a dry run towing, see how it tows, see how the 4Runner tows it. Just because I've never towed anything with that, never towed a car with that, so wanted to give a dry run. And then I was betting on the fact that we would get fun runs Saturday afternoon, which Autocross, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. If they finish early enough Saturday, sometimes they'll give a few people fun runs, you pay like $1, and you get to do the course. So we went for a couple fun runs each, and luckily the course is 2 laps anyways, so I did one fun run, I did a full 2 laps, and then the next one, I just did 1 lap and got out. The car was pretty good for that. Super fun to drive an Integra on coilovers. I've never done that before, and it handles really well, way better than my last one, and not really any abnormal noises in the suspension, which was good. So I know this engine's fine because Jet drove it back from San Francisco in a different car, and I drove it for probably like 50 miles when I was trying to decide if I was gonna smog the car that this engine originally came in. Which I didn't end up doing. We've probably put 150 miles on this engine before, and it was totally fine. But now that it's in this car, which means this engine harness, this intake exhaust, this cluster dash harness, ECU basically, I know nothing about. And at a certain RPM, under a certain load, the maintenance light flashes a couple times, stays on for a couple seconds, and then goes away. And it's right around 4,000 RPM if you get on it a little bit. So I'll show you a clip right here from Autocross. And in my 3 laps on the Autocross track going, 60% effort, the light only came on once. But we were driving around, and if you just gas it, it'll come on. So not sure what that is because that maintenance light is supposed to only be for maintenance. It literally just comes on at like 6,000 miles and then you reset it. That's all it does. So a little confused on why it's coming on. The clock usually lights up when it comes on as well. So I think it's just something weirdly shorted, but I'm not sure if this car has like a weird tune on it and it's some sort of warning from whoever tuned it. So I just need to figure that out first. I'm gonna check it for shorts a little bit, and then buddy Marco, who helped me buy the car that this motor came in, he has an ECU for an OBD2 GSR, so he said I can try that out, and that's super easy check. If we try the other ECU and the light doesn't come on, boom, it's an ECU issue. If we try the other ECU and the light still comes on, okay, well now we know it's just like some weird wiring short or something, because that light doesn't make any sense to be coming on. It's also possible it could be shorted to something else. The harness is pretty janky. I did repair part of it, and there's a few things on it that are like taped on. So because of that, I did not race the car either day. If I built up enough trust in it, I was gonna race it on Sunday, but because of the lights coming on, I didn't. So just did a couple fun runs in it Saturday night, which was totally worth it. Towing it up there was fun. 4Runner did great. Driving this, even though it was only 3 laps, was still super fun. And then racing Jet's car was awesome because that car is set up amazing. So the update is it runs, it works really well other than just the one light I need to figure out. It's super fucking loud and a little bit rattly, probably because the whole front end's. But other than that, it's pretty good. So right now I need to figure out the light, and what I'm gonna do in a few minutes here is drive it around and see if the smog monitors start setting up, because I'm missing 2 of them. I need those to smog, and 2 of them haven't set yet. But that's not surprising because the car has been driven literally like 2 miles since I put the engine in. So, you know, stuff's not gonna be set. It's gotta be driven. So I'm hoping once I drive that, everything sets. But as I previously mentioned in my other video, the smog receipt for this car, most recent smog, says $300. So I don't know what the fuck was going on there, but something that's not legal. For now, next step is smog. And then after that, that's when I'll try and get to the front end stuff and straighten it out a little more. So once it's smogged, then I can finish the registration process. And then once that's all done, I'll start trying to get this whole front end to line up and figuring out where it's askew, because right now it doesn't make too much sense to me. I mean, you would think this is pushed in because of that, but then the hood almost lines up, but then over here it like doesn't. But then this is also popped out, so I'm like, is this fender pushed in too? I don't know. I would assume that this fender is not pushed in and the whole hood's shifted over, and this fender is pushed in, but I really don't know. Anyways, I need another Integra to measure off of. It's hard to tell, but yeah, stuff's super hard to get for this car, super expensive. Carbon fiber hood's over there. I need to paint that, but I'm gonna use that hood to get all my other stuff lined up probably. So I'll put that hood on, and as long as these hinges are pretty decent, which they're probably not, maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll buy some hinges because these ones are probably bent, and then new hinges with the hood on the car should tell me where to line up the fenders. And once I get the fenders and hood lined up, then I can get the whole bumper a little higher because I think it's sitting a little low. And I still need a headlight. If anyone has a headlight, JDM Integra headlight, let me know. So a couple updates since the last video. I put the strut tire brace back on before the track. I straightened this out a ton. I got this thing pulled way out. Got the radiator in there sitting good. I added this ground strap, cleaned up the body, put this ground strap on there. I also cleaned up the transmission ground on both sides, reattached that. Got a new negative cable for the battery, cleaned up where it attaches down there. Just because when my car wasn't starting, I thought maybe that was the issue. So I cleaned up all the grounds, added that one that was missing. This intake is, I think the bracket I didn't put back in. ABS unit's doing good though, with having a bracket now and non-bent lines. This sucker's a little loose, doesn't tighten. This, I need to put the bracket back in, and I think I have to put the rest of the air box in for smog. Not sure. And then this sucker doesn't line up at all, this little PCV hose, and that's going to be important for smog. So this was leaking coolant, so I threw that clamp on at the track before I raced it. It had one of these old clamps on it, and it was just leaking. Oh no, that's not true. It had no clamp on it. That's why it was leaking. So I added that at the track. But this is definitely a little bent. It's a little bit hard to get in. But yeah, cleaned up all the grounds, got the cooling system bled, new spark plugs, wires. Cleaned up a couple things that broke on the freaking harness when I was doing that. Jet helped me bleed the clutch when he was over. This clutch engages like this far away from the floor. It's interesting. My new clutch line's holding up great that I handmade. The sucker's doing well. New master cylinder, doing well. And then when I first put the engine in, Jet came over the day that I was kind of like finishing up a few final touches, slapped a new battery in it, and it wouldn't start. It just barely clicked the starter, like not even like really clicking it, almost like dead battery click, where it's like a little baby bit. Holy shit, I didn't, it fell all the way down there. I forgot about you, bud. Sorry about that. I gotta pop this off and hook up the new one. Oopsies. I also need to get a different hood cable. I heard that a prelude cable fits on the Type R JDM front end, because obviously this one's way too short. So it took me a little while, but it wasn't starting, and it wasn't really even trying, barely clicking, like I said, so I went after the alarm. I looked up a few videos on YouTube about car alarms, and I was like, all right, how do I disable this alarm? And then basically, the alarms throw a big old relay in the natural starting path of your car. So if you remove that relay, it just puts the car back to normal. So basically I don't have an alarm anymore. But the alarm I have still works for opening the doors, which is what I need. Anyways, long story short, I cut that motherfucker out. Cut that relay out. You can see the little control wires right here. And then these are the two big power wires that go through the relay. So these control wires, when the alarm says, okay, I'm good to start, it makes the connection between these two big wires. So I ripped that relay out, which they did hide very well. Whoever installed this alarm, you hid that relay well. Took me a little while to find it. Took me a little while to get it out. And then I hooked these two big wires together, tried to start it, started right up. I was like, all right, cool. I did that on my lunch break, so then I went back to work, and then that evening I soldered these together. I'll probably wrap them up before I shove it back up there, but after I did that, it started fine. So that means there was some issue with the alarm, and that's why I wasn't starting, which, I mean, the car was dead for a long time, so I think that little backup battery for the alarm was dead. Like, the key fobs don't really make sense for the alarm, and the aftermarket Viper alarms are supposed to have a little reset button and another button. I forget what the other one's for. But it's supposed to have two buttons down here, and I couldn't find them. So that's why I went after the relay and just cut that sucker out. I don't have, you know, an alarm in the sense that it'll stop the car from starting. The car just starts normal with the key now. But I left the alarm in because, if you remember, someone took the freaking door locks off of this car. So the alarm is the only way to unlock and lock it, which was working fine until I did 3 laps of Autocross. And did this. Whoever installed the alarm left the fucking antenna hanging, and I fucked that up real quick. Apparently, going 60% effort on Autocross track just rips all the wires out. The key fob doesn't work anymore until I fix that. I gotta fix the 4 wires on that little sucker. Hopefully, I can figure out where they go, and then my door locks will work again. So that's the update. Got the engine in. Had to bypass the alarm because something's messed up with it. But otherwise, pretty much everything I did, grounds, cooling system, brake system, clutch line, it's all working pretty well. I just gotta figure out that little maintenance light issue. And hopefully it's nothing big, hopefully it's something shorted or whatever. And then I'll be ready to romp on her. At the same time going on, I need to get it past Smog so I can finish registering it. So we're getting there, Once I get all that done, straighten out the fucking front end and paint this sumbitch. Any hooters, that's how we do it, that's how we're doing it. And it's going well, so. Thanks for watching this video. I know it was too long, so I appreciate you guys. And that's the Integra update. Here's a couple little clips of it going really slow around an autocross course. Another little side story is I really wanted to get this ready for Autocross, so it's another reason I was determined to trailer it out there and at least bring it so I could say I finished it, brought it, and tracked it. So we didn't really get to fully track it, which is a little disappointing, really just because of that light. Other than that, the car drove pretty good, and honestly there's no real engine issues I noticed, just the lights coming on, so I didn't want to mess anything up. So I played it safe, but honestly, engine runs great, car handles really well. It's just funny because I was really trying to get it done, and Jet was like, are you sure you want to bring that? You sure you want to drive it? And he thinks I'm sketchy, but I mean, a little bit. I ran it with the BG engine cleaner in there the whole time because I put that in before. Because when I got this started up, I wanted to get it started, and I didn't have a new thing of engine oil yet. There's 3 quarts of the correct oil, and then like a little bit of oil from my Subaru I had left over, half a quart of another jug I had, and then a little bit of something else. And then the transmission fluid, I didn't have enough Honda MTF. I was like 400 milliliters short, so I just used my Mercedes, it's like 5 weight 40 or something that I had left over. It's fine, but he's like, why don't you just not bring the car and not drive it? But I had to get it done. So she's running with a little bit of Mercedes oil in the trans, which is fine. It's not gonna matter. And then 3 different kinds of oil in the engine plus the BG cleaner. So what I'm gonna do tonight, after driving it around a little bit, is doing a little change. It's really gonna clean that shit out well though. To be honest, it still only had like 20 minutes of the engine running since I put that cleaner in there. It's not a big deal. You're not supposed to drive on it, but who cares? Another thing is I've always wanted to keep track of the weight of my car, which ideally one day I will just weigh the car, and that would be nice. But until then, just for fun, I want to keep track of everything I'm taking off, just to see how much weight I've taken off. So the ACC system is fucked, and I'm gonna throw out the lines because there's way too much dye in them, and I'm making a mess, so I'm gonna fucking throw them out. Condenser is royally wrecked, so I'm gonna get rid of that. But before I do that, I'm gonna weigh everything. That would be fun to do. Kind of pointless because I really don't know how much this car weighs. I think the JDM front end's lighter because the American car is a giant crash bar, but at the same time, these freaking HIDs or whatever weigh like 100 pounds, so I think it cancels out, to be honest. It'll be fun to see how much weight I'm taking off the car. AC compressor probably weighs a shit ton. Alright, so that's kind of fun, because like I said, I've always wanted to take stuff off of a car and weigh it. So I weighed everything in that freaking pile right there, and surprisingly, that freaking airbox is 5 goddamn pounds. And altogether, that's 30 pounds worth of crap that's never going to go back on the car. So that's kind of cool. 30 pounds is a freaking lot of weight. It's freaking 30 pounds in savings already. That's a lot. So that's kind of cool. Cool to keep track of. Fun stuff to do. And now I can throw that out. That was the biggest part, is I was only saving that to weigh it. Now I'm going to throw it out because this stuff is making a goddamn mess all over my goddamn garage. Garbage can time. The garage is finally clean. Finally finished cleaning up. Even wiped it off for the first time in a long time. We got all these parts that still need to go on the Integra at some point. These are my 4Runner parts that need to go on the 4Runner at some point, including all those belts. I'll tell you this in a second. You know what that is? Oh, you know what it is. But anyways, got the garage all cleaned up finally. I freaking hate having a messy garage, so. Oh, this makes me so happy. You don't even know. But yeah, shit's all clean. And then I pulled this out for a second and busted a few more things off because I thought I knew what the problem was and I wanted to double check. And it was what I thought it was. So went ahead and took this little girdle off. Girdle. I think that's what it's called. Took that sucker off and had access to all 4 pistons because it obviously sits right here. So these 2 pistons, 2 and 3, are underneath it. And took it off, and before I took that off, when I originally took the pan off, but I noticed when I took it off, you got a little bit of play here. Hear that? A little bit of play here. And in this one. So that's normal. It should have a little bit of play. Problem was, when I messed with this before, again, when I had that on, I just touched them all. 1, 3, and 4 all had play. 2 had absolutely no play at all. It did not freaking move. So I busted the cap off. Bzz, bzz. Took the cap off there, and I took it off, and there was no bearing. And I was like, excuse me? I know there was bearing material in the pan, but we didn't eat through a whole bearing, right? And there was no freaking bearing on this cap. I was looking at it, I'm like, is it in there? Disintegrated? No, it's not in there. And then you can see the bottom bearing sticking up just a little bit, right, out of the cap. So I was like, all right, I spun a bearing for sure, right? I already thought that bearing was welded. Well, I found the second bearing. It was underneath the first one. So, again, I can see a little bit of it sticking up. So I popped the piston down, and then I'm like, all right, yeah, there's only half of a bearing on here. So I started pushing it off with my fingers, and I was like, it feels like there's something underneath it. I popped this off, popped that sucker off in my hand. I'm like, well, there's the other half of the bearing. It's freaking underneath it. So they were literally like this. Just like that. And this little bit was sticking up, and that's what I could see. So yeah, anyways, it was completely slid all the way underneath the other one. So like, I know bearings move around and have issues. But damn, I've never seen one completely engulf the other one. Like, that's impressive. That's a lot of shit. So anyways, yeah, did that, and obviously now the engine turns super easy. Didn't turn at all before, so yeah, these bearings were just on top of each other, which is super crazy. So these bearings are fucked, and it looks like there's a little spot in the crankshaft right there that is damaged. Oh, I rotated it a little too much. Just below that hole, you see 2 big streaks, and then there's like a little bit of what's probably a flat spot below those. So I think that crankshaft is fricked up. But we figured out what was wrong. That kid said the engine was knocking. All he told me was it was knocking. What he meant to say was it was knocking for a really long time, and I had to not fix it. And I ran it like that. And I got an oil change to try and fix it. It still knocked. And it kept knocking. And then one day it stopped knocking. And also stopped moving completely. That's what he meant to tell me. But mystery solved. Cylinder 2, connecting rod bearing, slipperoony, stuck on the camshaft, on the crankshaft. And that's cool, because I mean, shoot, it's freaking, like, if I build this motor, I'll replace the crankshaft and connecting rods and everything anyways. Like, it's kind of nice to know that the journals where the crank actually sits, there's no issues. So, I mean, if I was a real hoonigan, I would just sand that down a little bit, slap some bearings in there, maybe oversized ones, and call it a day, but I'm not a hoonigan. So I'll probably just end up building this motor, because now I know there's nothing wrong with it. I just spun a bearing. And this bitch runs, so. Anyways, that's the engine update. So now we know what was wrong with the old engine. Mystery solved. Now there's just a couple mysteries left on this sucker. We'll get there.
Peace. It was good.